Good afternoon. I'm Dara Bunjon. I am the food enthusiast here at J Moore Living. I'm a food writer, food stylist, PR maven, and a frustrated baker. Those of you joining us live, drop your comments and questions for my guest or myself into the comment box, and you'll see me turn my head from time to time. Today's guest is an award-winning actor, director, playwright, musician, filmmaker, and also a cookbook writer, Richard S. Sargent. We will chat about his new swoon-worthy cookbook, The Ultimate Chick Flick Cookbook. Fall in love with over 60 mouth-watering recipes, each inspired by the iconic romantic comedies you adore. In the book, he shares thoughtful food and cocktail pairing for fan-favorite films such as When Harry Met Sally, Devil Wears Prada, Crazy Rich Asians, Dirty Dancing, Legally Blonde. I believe it was 40 movies, 60 recipes. Let's start dishing with Richard.
Hello.
Hi, good to see you and
Good to
to
see you
hear
too.
you. Yes. So I always start out with, this isn't the only thing you're doing today. You're in California, so there's a 3-hour difference. So what's on your plate today to do?
Yeah,
What's
so
going to keep
it's still early here in California. So I also do some pet sitting on the side when I'm not working on my books. So I have some pets later today. I'll be walking some dogs and checking in on some cats, and I love animals, so I'll be doing that. And then I'm also already working on my next book, so I'll be putting some of that together, maybe testing out some recipes depending on the time.
Well, that's a full day.
Yeah.
That's definitely a full day. I always talk about the family table. You grew up in Pittsburgh.
Yes.
What was family life? What was the family table like growing up for you?
It was like the Hunger Games. We had to fight to get our food away from my father. No, if he got his food first, forget it. We wouldn't get any. No, it was good. My mom was always in the kitchen cooking, and we would get home from school and help her out. And my dad would get home from work, and then we'd all sit down and eat together. And that would be how we would catch up on the day. And like I said, my dad would listen because his mouth was always full. And but no, it was good. And then on the weekends, we would all, my mom would cook. We'd have Sunday dinner. It was pasta and meatballs every Sunday, sort of thing. We're Italian, so go figure. But yeah, so that was what it was like growing up in Pittsburgh with an Italian family.
Okay. So I take it you at least once ate at Primanti Brothers.
Of course, yeah. It's not my favorite, but I love you, Primanti's. My sandwiches don't have to be this tall in order for me to eat them. So I usually take it apart. I like thin bread. I'm not a thick bread person. So I honestly, truthfully don't love those sandwiches, but I know that's what Pittsburgh is famous for some reason, better or
Well,
worse.
reality TV brought that to.
Yeah.
They
And
opened up.
sports.
Yeah, they opened up a Primanti Brothers, Primanti, tomato.
You're making it sound so fancy, Primanti Brothers.
Here in Baltimore. So let me explain to people. Basically, they do these sandwiches. It was sort of a dive restaurant. It was where all the truckers went. And so they could they would pack everything in the sandwich. The French fries were in the sandwich, if I'm remembering all this. So I was always curious. And when they opened one here in Baltimore, I went with a friend and I went, I mean, it's just that. If you're taking the French fries out, then that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, which I do. And then they're soggy. So then you're eating soggy French fries, which I don't like. So, It's a lose-lose for me at Permantes, but
Okay.
but I understand that people love it, and hey,
Uh,
go for it.
right.
More for you.
So I'm not sure where you went to college, but you studied film. You were
So
acting as a kid. You acted as a
yeah,
young child.
I was always doing any local theater that I could get into. I was doing like Nutcracker, things like that. I would do. I was in the band, that sort of stuff as well, choir, all that. But I went to college at Gannon University in Erie, Pennsylvania, and I went in undecided. I wasn't sure what I was going to do. I actually thought I was going to do biology and psychology, like a double major. And it was a very good science school, but I decided to stick with it when I changed my major to theater and communications, which is what I studied. In order to do the film stuff, I had to sort of create my own classes with one of my mentors. So that was actually a really good learning experience for me too, to sort of build my own class. And working one-on-one with a professor was a really good experience. I learned a lot from her and from her time in New York. So yeah, it was great.
So
But
after college, New York?
New York, yeah, I lived at home in Pittsburgh for a little while, and then just to save enough money to get to New York, and I thought, it's between New York or LA. I didn't know which one I wanted to do. So I decided to stick closer to home and go to New York. And so I did the starving artist thing there for a while. And I say I'm pretty lucky, honestly. I was constantly working on something creative while doing my 3 other jobs to pay the rent, So it
A lot
was
of restaurant work.
a lot of restaurant work, a lot of catering, events, that sort of thing. But I worked in a lot of kitchens growing up to pay for school, and that was also a good experience. I did everything from doing the dishes to being a line cook, and working with some really good chefs. So it was everything I do. I try to learn a little bit from it, even if it's something that I wish I wasn't doing. But yeah.
Right. I understand. I helped a friend out. I worked 2 days in her kitchen in DC. It was for the Hellenic Center, and just things about how she wanted things washed, and I went, oh, I didn't know that. So
Yeah.
it applies to my day to day. Absolutely. Um, so you're in New York. Did you take any classes, or was it just from being in the restaurants that you learned about
No.
food?
Yeah, I also took a few classes at the Institute of Culinary Education.
I,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, I'm not really using that anymore, but yeah. So I've taken some classes there, and it was getting to the point where it was becoming work, which is what I wanted to
Not fun.
avoid, because I love doing it. And once it started to feel like work, I thought, maybe this isn't right. You're losing your love for it. Let's just pull back a little. So I pulled back and thought, well, I do have the fundamentals now. I can still experiment in the kitchen and do it all on my own. And so that's what I started doing. At that point, I just started experimenting.
So when did you go to California?
So I stayed in New York for about 8 years. And then we moved to San Francisco, where I worked on a food truck, and I worked in another restaurant, and trying to get my footing. And I thought maybe while we were there, I would open my own food truck. But we didn't stay long enough. I ended up going to Tahoe after that, and now I'm in Palm Springs. So
Okay.
it's been a California journey since we moved here.
Yeah. But you're always doing. I saw the clip of the movie. Oh, doggone it! Where'd I write it? About the guy and the gal one night. Oh, shoot. All right, it'll come to me. in the middle of the night. I like the clip. That's, hey, look, I just had another hatch day, as they say. So the years are um, climbing up. All right. So your the first cookbook was the horror movie cookbook. It
That's right.
wasn't rom-coms. Why horror? Why
So,
was that?
yeah, horror has always been my thing. That's what I grew up watching with my mom. And that is sort of what I've always felt connected to. I think it's, I always felt different growing up and seeing the monster, being able to relate to the monsters like Frankenstein's monster, um, it just,
You
it was a way
related to
for me.
being
I
different.
related to being different with all these monsters, right? The old black and whites. And so then when Scream came out, it like blew my mind. I couldn't believe what I was watching. And so that's when I decided to take a deep dive into horror and study it more. And I took some horror film classes in college and things like that. And so when I was in Tahoe, I started a theater company with some friends called Black Ice Theater Company. And one of our first things we did together as a group was the horror play, The Woman in Black.
Okay.
Now, everybody that was in this with me was like, oh, I hate horror. I don't know why we're doing this. And I was like, what do you mean? And they're like, oh, it's all just boobs and blood. And I'm like, no, 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 no. Horror has a lot to say. Like there are very important horror films. And so I decided to do my own movie nights and introduce these people to the horror films that I thought were important or that I, just thought they would like, or some of my own favorites. And so I would pair each movie with a course. I did an appetizer, a dinner, and a dessert for each film. We watched 3 a night. Each one had drinks to go with it. And we did about 5 of these nights. And my friends were like, what are you going to do with this? This is awesome. People are going to want to do this. And I'm like, what do you mean? I thought we were just, having fun. And they were like, no, other people are going to want to do this. I guarantee it. So I thought, well, maybe I would do an event, special events or something like that. But that felt too localized. So I thought, well, maybe I'll turn it into a cookbook. And so that's what I started to do. And things just sort of fell into place as I was writing the book. It just all made perfect sense that these horror movie nights turned into a cookbook. So that's why I did the first one as horror. And then luckily it's very successful still. And some of the feedback that I get is that we love the idea of the book. We just don't love horror films. You should do rom-coms. And so I thought, well, maybe for the next one, I'll do chick flicks. And so that's how I got to the chick flick one.
There's so many to pick from, but let me go back to horror, just out of
Sure.
curiosity. Is there a favorite horror? I mean, to me, Psycho was it. And my neighbor looked like Anthony Perkins. And, in the summertime, the windows were open and he just, do one of those.
You could hear that music, right?
Yeah.
As he opens the window.
Right. Can you narrow down to one, or tell me a bit about maybe one of the recipes or an evening in the movie and the food and horror?
Yeah. My very first horror movie night that we did was my favorite 3 horror films. And that they are Scream, The Descent. I don't know if you've heard of that one. Pretty scary. Yeah. And Event Horizon, which is like a sci-fi horror film. And so the very first night we did popcorn. I did a couple different types of popcorn because in Scream, she's making the popcorn in the opening scene. And for the dinner, The Descent. Oh, The Descent takes place in the Appalachian Mountains. So I chose to do like a local recipe that, from the Appalachians, which was pretty good actually, but it was made to use squirrel, but I did not use squirrel for my recipe. And then for the dessert, we did Event Horizon. And like I said, that takes place in space and their ship goes into a black hole. And so I did a dessert called the Black Hole, and it was like kind of like a chocolate creme brulee type thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cute.
So I tried to incorporate the food, either what they're eating or inspired by the film in some way.
And the location, right?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
location, characters, things like that.
So just to remind people, it's the ultimate Chick Flick Cookbook. And to find out more about the book, you can go to Movie Cookbook Series. And that's on Facebook and Instagram. Movie Cookbook Series. Didn't want to forget that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I notice you're enunciating the ultimate Chick Flick Cookbook. It's kind of hard to say, right? Which I didn't realize when I picked the title because I wasn't saying it out loud. And every time I do interviews like this, I'm like, oh gosh, okay, remember to enunciate it because it's really hard to say.
Well, I did okay. I was practicing the intro and I was having a problem with iconic. So I wasn't, I'm going, So, no, I love live.
Yeah.
I have been captured doing weird stuff, and I just move on. Oh, I did write down the movie that interested me. I didn't know what you did on the movie, Nick and Nora movie.
Oh, Nick and Nora's Infinite Playlist. Yes. I was in that. I got my SAG card through that movie. I did. It was a featured scene. I'm not sure if you remember the film, but in the beginning, they go to a concert, and I was one of the concert goers. There was a set of three of us. The lead singer of the concert was going to come down and kiss the guy next to me, so our group of friends. And so I was in that threesome, and it was going to be a featured part, but it got cut. I ended up on the cutting room floor. But you can still see me wandering around at the concert, jamming out and talking to some of the leads. But it was a great experience. Everybody on that movie was so nice, and it filmed in a great location in New York. And one of the days when we were just waiting to go on, Kevin Bacon and Kira Sedgwick came out of the shop and they were chatting with us, and it was just really just really a cool experience.
So I'm like, you met Kevin Bacon, blah, blah, blah. I did an event with Barry Levinson.
Oh, nice.
And he was doing something for his mother, and I was there. And I said, you've sort of done my whole life, diner, because I used to go to the diner. I worked for a home improvement company, a company actually out of Pittsburgh called Thermal Industries.
Oh.
That was windows. And then Liberty Heights. But that's another story. It has nothing to do with food, so I'll go back on track. We could just dish for a while.
I bet.
Okay, so the ultimate Chick Flick Cookbook. You spent the time. Oh, and I got a copy of the book, and I have tabs in it. So, because that's what we do. But you do suggested menus for a full evening. Let's Dance, where the appetizers from Dirty Dancing, the dinners from Romeo and Michelle's high school reunion, and dessert is from 13 going on 30. Girl Can't Cook, Wedding Warfare. So we're doing that. The Legally Blonde. These are all food and cocktail combinations, and you have a cocktail contest or a thing to do during each movie, whether
Yeah,
they're
drinking game.
dancing. Yeah. So, what was it? Ama's special dumplings from Crazy Rich Asian. I just watched Barbie. I hadn't watched it before, so the Brewski beer cheesecake really rings true to me. Okay. Movie night theme. What else did I have here? Oh, okay. Pretty Women.
Yes.
I like this. Slippery little suckers, everybody. Get your escar going. Under the Tuscan Sun, I marked this off because out of the 3 recipes, I had 2 when I was in Florence at El Latini, which was the ribollita and the prosciutto and melon.
Yeah, they're very authentic to the region. When we were in Tuscany, we had them as well, and it was so that one was sort of an easy one for me to decide which ones I was going to do. But yeah, it's I tried to be as authentic as possible with my recipes.
Was there one that stymied you more than others?
I would say that waiting to exhale is a tough one. That one was the hardest one for me. It wasn't hard for me to necessarily pick what I was going to do, but because she lists like 8 different things, it was hard for me to put it together in the right, the right amount of the right portion sizes and the right. I mean, I had to test 8 different recipes or something like that for that recipe. So that was a tough one.
Right, it is.
For
I'm
me.
sitting here. Sorry, gang. Let's see. Candied yams, potato salad, collard greens, fried chicken seasoning mix. For the fried chicken, wet batter. There's another recipe for the cornbread. And I love you have these little comments at the back of the recipes. I mean, you have good recipes in here, but the book is entertaining. So difficulty, easier than collecting all of your ex's stuff, throwing it in his car and blowing it all to hell.
Yeah, well,
That.
see, that's I love that you like that because there are the people that are cookbook traditionalists that want to actually know how difficult it is. But when I was coming up with the book, I wanted it to be entertaining. Difficulty levels to me are pointless because one thing could be incredibly easy for you and incredibly difficult for me. So
Right.
what's the point in a difficulty level? But some people, purists, want to know, is this a hard recipe? Is this an easy recipe? And I thought, well, to hell with that. I want it to be fun. So I went with the more fun approach.
Right. Now, you have, one would think that on the movie When Harry Met Sally that you would use a corned beef sandwich or a pastrami sandwich, but you didn't.
No.
You did the diner.
No. I went with her recipe. That was the complicated recipe because I thought it to me it was the start of like what people thought of as a high maintenance woman, and I thought that that was important to society. So I went with that's why I chose that recipe. There were several things I could have chosen from that movie alone, but I thought that was an important one. Because it's more than just entertaining. And I think it's unfortunate too, because it's just a woman that knew what she wanted and knew what she likes. And somehow society turned that into a high maintenance woman. All because of that movie. Right. And so, that's why I chose that recipe. And then for the drink, I stuck with that same scene and turned her pie into a drink.
Right. You have pretty much started your own publishing company. This is going to be series. Is third book a continuation of Chick Flick movies?
Yeah, so with the publishing company, I published the first one myself, and I published this one myself to test the waters. I just wanted to see if people were going to even bite. And the first one got picked up by a publisher right away. So the first one is actually published by a division of Simon and Schuster. And this one, I'm in talks right now with a couple different people that will most likely, it will be picked up as well. But so the publishing company is just, for my own stuff. But the third book, which I think if I do get picked up with a specific company that I have in mind for this one, the third one will just, from there, the series will just go with them. So the third one is going to be the Queer Movie Cookbook, and that is going to focus on all LGBTQ themed films. And I'm switching it up a little bit, but it's going to be generally the same thing as the other two.
Same concept.
Same concept, yeah.
Yeah. Because I was thinking, there's so many food movies. I start going, well, if he did a second book, How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, The Help, which is Minnie's chocolate pie. Annie Hall's
no special ingredients in that.
No. Big Fat Greek Wedding, Big Night, Julie and Julia, Eat, Drink, Man, Woman, No Reservations, Fried Green Tomatoes, Waitress, The 100-Foot Journey. And that was the late Floyd Cardoz, the chef who passed away very quickly when COVID started. And he was the food stylist there. And Martha Foose, who's been on the show, she worked on the Help. But I digress, which is famous. Notting Hill, Moonstruck. I mean, there's some.
So a lot of the ones that you mentioned were on my short list, but I had to narrow it down. So there will be a sequel. Several of them will be in that. But you did mention Waitress, and if that is your favorite movie out there, people, Waitress is actually in this one. It is in the first version of the Ultimate Chick Flick Cookbook. So I did Lonely Chicago Pie for that one.
Oh, I must have missed that. I'm sorry.
No worries. But it is in there, and Notting Hill and Moonstruck and several of the other ones that you mentioned are on my short list for the second one. So hang tight. Those will be in the sequel.
Yeah. Yeah, here it is. Waitress. Lonely Chicago Pie. Okay. Difficulty. Easy as pie, as they say. I just love your sarcasm and wit in this book.
Thank you. So. I'm glad it shines through.
Well, I always read a cookbook like a novel. I always liked the ones that had a good story in front of it and a recipe. And just giving me a blank recipe, I don't know. Give me the story. I'd like the story behind it.
Oh, good.
So we know what's next.
Yes.
So let me hold it up again. It's available on Amazon.
Yep.
And is there any other places right now that it's available to purchase?
No, right now. Well, if you want a signed copy, you can order it on eBay through me directly. But Amazon is the main seller for that one, and then the Horror Movie Night Cookbook, which I can hold up. That one is available anywhere you buy books.
Great.
And if your local bookstore doesn't have it, tell them to get it. They'll get it in for you.
Okay. All righty. So we're down to my final question, but remind people that to reach Richard, or do you go by Rich?
Well, I go by Richard professionally, but you can call me Rich.
It just didn't call you late for supper, right?
Exactly.
Okay. If you'd like to stay in touch, see what's going on with Rich Sargent, at Movie Cookbook Series. Okay. It's very simple, at Movie Cookbook Series. Instagram,
Yep.
Facebook, you can find him there. All right, down to my last questions here.
Okay.
If you could go back and give your 18-year-old self a piece of advice, what would it be?
He was so young. I guess to just keep going. There were times when I felt like I just needed to quit. And so I did, and things would fall to the wayside and not get picked back up. But I think that if I could tell him to just stick with it, don't give up so easily in every aspect of my life, it will get better. You will get to the end, and you will be proud of the result.
Good. 2 things that are a must to be in your refrigerator.
At all times, I must have lemonade and I must have iced tea so that I can make my daily Arnold Palmers. It's so hot here in Palm Springs, and they're so refreshing. So those are must-haves.
I like that, but I found my problem is there's just too much sugar in it. So.
Yeah, I do get the sugar. I should be making my own, but I do buy the sugar-free versions of both. And then, then you're getting, the fake sugars, which aren't good either. And, it's lose there too.
Okay, but enjoy. If you wake up tomorrow morning with a new talent, what would it be? You're very talented in many aspects right now, so.
Thank you. Yes. I would love to wake up tomorrow and be able to play the piano. I have taken many lessons, but just like my 18-year-old self, I've had to give up because I just didn't have the time to rehearse, to practice on my own, or I didn't have the convenience of having a piano at home. So I just gave it up. And I think by now I probably lost all of my knowledge on how to play. So I'd love to wake up tomorrow and just be able to play the piano so that, I can incorporate that. I have a band as well with my husband, and we play alternative music, and I always want to add a little piano in there, and I just don't know how. So
What's the best bite you've had all week?
Ooh, my friends invited us over for a crawfish boil earlier over the weekend. Yeah. So I would say that whole meal was probably, the crawfish, he's from Louisiana, so he cooked it perfectly. And I made one of my desserts that are going to test for my queer movie cookbook. And it was bananas Foster, and it turned out amazing. So I would say that whole meal was probably just one of the best things I've had in a while.
Okay, great. Your epic culinary fail.
So there will be a sequel to the Horror Movie Night Cookbook that's coming up soon. And one of the recipes that I made was for the movie Alien. And so I decided to do Scotch eggs to make alien egg pasta, right? I must have gone through about 80 eggs trying to get them perfect for the center of this stupid Scotch egg. And so I would say that had to be my biggest fail, but it actually turned into a win because it ended up pretty good, but I just couldn't get it right. And I think if I tried that today, I would be in debt. I'd have to take out another loan on my house. But yeah, it was a mess in my kitchen. 80 eggs, eggshells everywhere. It was a disaster.
Yeah, and then just peeling them and not having marks on it, and the egg sticking, the egg white.
What a mess. Yeah. It's a tough recipe, but yeah.
This was ages ago. God, could be 20 years ago. Shirley Currier, who's a cookbook author, and she's more a food scientist.
Love that.
She was in town for the book festival, and I got together with people who were taking cooking classes through me, and we hosted her, and we did deviled eggs. And it was very similar.
Yeah.
It just brought back memories and the smell of sulfur to me. Okay. And what didn't I ask you that I probably should have, Rich?
Oh, I don't know. That's a tough one. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe you didn't ask me. I think you covered everything, but you didn't ask me what my favorite food is. That's pretty generic, though, right? There would be no reason to ask that.
Well, I think you
But it's
told me
pizza.
It's pizza. It's not a Clementi Brothers sandwich. It's pizza.
Definitely not from Auntie Brothers. No, it's New York style pizza.
Okay.
That's one of the best bites I've ever had in my life.
Well, I like you get a slice there. You're full with a slice.
Exactly.
A slice is giganta. I not that you asked me. I'm sort of a thin crust person, so the New York pizza is good. I'm not into deep dish. To me, that's more like focaccia with a lot of stuff on it.
Well, like I said, I don't like thick bread, so I don't want the deep dish. I don't want the Sicilian style. You can keep all that. Give me the New York style and maybe just pepperoni, and I'm good to go.
Okay. All right. Well, we've had fun. I thank you so much, everybody. The Ultimate Chick Flick Cookbook, and I dare you to say it fast. But it's a lot of fun, and create those special evenings with friends over if you're doing a dinner party, and they can pop in. You can do the appetizer, you got the drinks, you got everything to go, and then run the movie.
Yeah, it's always more fun to cook with people, right?
Right. We just did, a friend of mine has a restaurant, and she'll do themed events, and she did a big night event, and she had the big screen, and we had that going on, and she did like 5 courses. That was fun.
Nice.
Yeah.
I love that. That's so fun to me. Yeah.
Ma, thank you. Thank you so much. Continued success, and I'm waiting for your next cookbook.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, everyone. Everyone, I have a couple of announcements. Griffin, wake up. There he is. He's a producer. He pulls everybody in and out. Feel free to reach out to me via my email, which is food@jmoreliving.com, or my Instagram @Dara Cooks. And on Facebook, I do maintain the Food Enthusiast page. Next week's guest is Chef Paul Lever, creator of Chef Dad Pot Pies. He comes to the table, excuse the pun, with 35 years plus of hotel catering and restaurant experience, including large events for Super Bowls, PGA Tours, Cirque du Soleil, premieres. Just a reminder, you can sign up at jmoreliving.com for the free This Week in Baltimore Eating newsletter. It comes out, I think, every other week with recipes. Oh, you know what? I forgot to thank Richard. He gave us a recipe for Dirty Dancing. Oh, I'm sorry, Richard, if you go back and watch this. There's a recipe up on More Living, which is from Dirty Dancing. Let's see if I can find it real quick here. Let Baby Carry It. Baby Carry the Watermelon. So it's a watermelon cocktail. And it's up on jmoreliving.com. Brain, I'll find it one day. So thanks, Richard, from the book, The Ultimate Chick Flick Cookbook, Let Baby Carry It, Watermelon Cocktail. Okay, I was talking about you can sign up for More Living for free This Week in Baltimore Eating newsletter. So if you're signed up for that, you're going to get a link to that recipe. and it is up on J More Living. And all you have to do is to go to the J More Living website, go to the top on the menu where it says connect, and just fill it out, and you'll get it. I believe it's every other week. Sometimes it's every week, I guess, when they have enough material. All shows are immediately archived in video form on J More Living's Facebook page and jmoreliving.com. We truly appreciate it when you share our show with friends and family. Feel free to go back into our archives and enjoy past shows. We do have a YouTube channel, or on J More Living, you can find all the archive shows there. May your plates always, always remain full. Thank you for joining us, and I hope to see you next Thursday.